Mosima Gabriel Sexwale is a South African businessman, politician, anti-apartheid activist, and former political prisoner. Sexwale for many years was imprisoned on Robben Island for his anti-apartheid activities alongside figures such as Nelson Mandela. After the 1994 general election, the first fully democratic election in South Africa, Sexwale became the premier of Gauteng province.
And ANC veteran Sexwale says money from the Heritage Fund meant for the poor has been stolen. Sexwale has been involved in raising billions of rand together with what he's called a very powerful family. Now the money is meant to assist in various areas, this including providing free education to those in need. But Sexwale further says that President Cyril Ramaphosa and his predecessor, that's former President Jacob Zuma, are aware of this fund. And he was speaking to JJ Tabane on Power to Truth last night.
Sexwale was born on 5 March 1953 in Orlando West, Soweto, Johannesburg, as the third of 6 children of Gottlieb and Frank Sexwale. His father was a clerk at Johannesburg General Hospital and had fought against the Germans in World War II. Sexwale grew up during the Black Township's upheaval. In 1973, he graduated from Orlando West High School. Sexwale's nickname of Tokyo is derived from his involvement with the sport of karate as a youth. Sexwale became interested in politics at an early age. While at high school, he became involved with the African National Congress through contact with other students. In the late 1960s and 1970s, Sexwale became a member of Steve Biko's Black Consciousness movement and became a local leader of the radical South African students movement. In the early 1970s, he joined the African National Congress armed wing, Umkhonto weSizwe, Spear of the Nation. While in Swaziland, he completed a certificate in business studies at the University of Botswana, Lesotho, and Swaziland. In 1975, Sexwale went into exile, undergoing military officers training in the Soviet Union, where he specialized in military engineering. Upon his return to South Africa in 1976, Sexwale, along with 11 others, was captured after a skirmish with the South African security forces. After an almost 2-year trial in the Supreme Court of South Africa in Pretoria, he was charged and later convicted of terrorism and conspiracy to overthrow the government. In 1977, Sexwale was sent to Robben Island Maximum Security Prison to serve an 18-year sentence. While imprisoned at Robben Island, he studied for a BCom degree at the University of South Africa. Sexwale was released in June 1990 under the terms of the Groote Schuur Agreement between the National Party government and the African National Congress. He had spent 13 years in prison. During this time, he was represented in part by a paralegal named Judy Van Voren. They began a personal relationship while he remained in prison and married soon after his release in 1990. After his release, Sexwale returned to Johannesburg, where he served as the head of Public Liaison Department of the African National Congress headquarters. He was subsequently appointed the head of Special Projects, where he reported to the ANC's military headquarters. In September 1990, he was elected as a member of the Executive Committee of the ANC in the Pretoria, Witwatersrand and Vereeniging PWV region. After the South African elections in April 1994, Sexwale was elected as the first premier of the new PWV province, renamed Gauteng province in December 1994. In this role, he was credited with bringing peace to several politically volatile townships. Sexwale left politics for the corporate sector in 1998. The reasons for this were never made completely clear, but was reportedly due to feeling stifled by central government restrictions as well as becoming exhausted by internal African National Congress conflicts. Further speculations is that Sexwale left politics due to strong disagreements with the then Vice President of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki. Other speculations is that his marriage opened business opportunities in the white-dominated financial sectors that allowed him opportunities not open to other black leaders. Sexwale, Cyril Ramaphosa, and Mbeki were possible candidates jostling for the presidency after Mandela stepped down. Once Thabo Mbeki appeared as the favorite candidate, both Sexwale and Ramaphosa left politics to follow successful careers as businessmen. On 7 January 2007, the Sunday Times reported that Sexwale was campaigning for a leadership position within the ANC, which would have put him in position to replace Thabo Mbeki as president of South Africa in 2009. Sexwale admitted on BBC's Hard Talk that if asked to stand for elections as party president by structures of the ANC, he would seriously consider it. He was elected to the ANC's 80-member National Executive Committee in December 2007 in 10th place with 2,198 votes. Before 2009, Tokyo Sexwale was known as Housing Minister, but his post was renamed Human Settlements so that he would have the power to plan integrated settlements and be responsible for sanitation and electricity. In reality, he did not have these powers, or he has not exercised them, leaving his role similar to that of the old housing minister. Two of Sexwale's ambitious ideas are a state housing construction company and a state housing bank, but these plans remained unrealized. Sexwale dealt with the long-standing problem of the M2 Gateway housing problem by relocating 10,000 shack dwellers to housing units. He similarly dealt with another explosive situation in Lenasia, where the Gauteng provincial government was demolishing houses, leading to clashes between the occupiers of the houses and the nearby residents. After his intervention, the bulldozer stopped and public bickering came to an end, although the matter has not been laid to rest. Upon leaving the public sector, Sexwale founded Mvelapanda Holdings. Mvelapanda is the vendor word for Progress, a company of which he is still executive chairman. Mvelapanda is primarily focused on the mining, energy, and related sectors. Some of Sexwale's main interests are oil and diamond mining, for which he has been granted concessions across Africa and Russia. These interests are controlled by a subsidiary of Mvelapanda Holdings called Mvelapanda Resources. Through his Mvelapanda Group, Sexwale has substantial holdings in the mining sector. He was discussing with the Kazakh-owned Eurasian National Resources Corporation a plan to buy into mining interest in Guinea. A negotiating team is in secret talks about financing a local mining company to be owned by the Guinean state. The new mining code, drafted by advisors to the Guinean president, Alpha Conde, would grant the new state entity a free 15% stake in Guinea's mining projects with the option to buy another 20%. Sexwale was a business partner with Alpha Conde even before Conde became president. Sexwale's Mvelapanda Holdings and Walter Henning's Paladino Holdings have entered into a partnership with US investment fund managers Oxif Capital Management in African Global Capital, a natural resources investment fund focusing on the continent. In January 2008, OZ Management, Mvelapanda Holdings, and Walter Henning's Paladino Holdings announced the creation of a new joint venture, African Management Limited. As part of the joint venture, African Management Limited established African Global Capital as a vehicle for investment in both the private and public markets across Africa, focusing on natural resources and related opportunities. Sexwale said, "We intend to build on our already strong foothold in African investments in partnership with Oxif. The partnership with Oxif in American Global Capital will help us accelerate in building the leading African investment firm." Sexwale was mentioned as a possible candidate for Deputy President of the African National Congress in 2007. In September 2007, he announced his candidacy for the ANC presidential nomination at the party convention in Polokwane. Prior to the convention, he withdrew his nomination and backed the then Deputy President, Jacob Zuma. He did not stand for Deputy Presidency, as certain media speculation expected. The post eventually went to Kgalema Motlanthe. In 2009, he was appointed as Minister of Human Settlements by President Jacob Zuma, having previously been touted as a possible Foreign Affairs or Defense Minister. Sexwale was nominated as Kgalema Motlanthe's Deputy Presidential running mate on 2 October 2012 by various regions in the Eastern Cape, the ruling party's second largest branch. The ANC Youth League also indicated that it would back Sexwale for Deputy Presidency at the ANC's leadership election in Mangaung, Free State. On 18 December 2012, Sexwale was defeated for the post of Deputy President, coming in last place. He received 463 votes, while Cyril Ramaphosa received 3,018 votes and Matthews Phosa received 470 votes. In 2002, he was refused a visa to enter the United States, which kept him from attending the listing of Goldfields, a company in which he holds a 15% stake on the New York Stock Exchange. It later transpired that he, along with many prominent South African anti-apartheid figures such as Nelson Mandela and South African Cabinet Minister Sidney Mufamadi, were still on that country's list of global terrorists. After initiating legal action, going so far as to having papers served on the US Department of State, and following personal intervention by Condoleezza Rice, Sexwale and others received 10-year waivers from the Immigration and Naturalization Service and the Department of Homeland Security, as the government felt that permanently delisting them would mean changing the law, which would be a lengthy process. In July 2008, a bill became law in the US to provide relief for certain members of the African National Congress regarding admissibility, and the ANC itself was removed from the terrorist list, though on 28 October 2013, the ANC demanded an apology after Sexwale was held at a US airport because he was still on a terrorist watch list. In 2005, Sexwale was roundly criticized for being indecisive during the live finale of South African version of The Apprentice, which he fronted on SABC3. Both finalists, Zanele Bayashe, 24, and Kumutso Choma, 34, were hired in the finale, which aired 22 September. Sexwale led a group of South Africans who devised a plan to take over mineral assets and mining concessions in the Republic of Guinea, which the Guinean government planned to rationalize after revoking deals struck by previous governments in power. Sexwale discussed the plan with the Eurasian Natural Resources Corporation to buy into mining interests in Guinea. Sexwale was believed to be the driver behind two British Virgin Island vehicles, Paladino Holdings and Flora's Bell, which were managed by Walter Henning. In April 2011, Walter Henning concluded a secret deal with Guinean President Alpha Conde that would transfer billions of dollars of mining assets belonging to companies such as BHP and Rio Tinto, who wanted to invest billions to develop the mines of Guinea, to South African intermediary Paladino Capital. The deal comprised of a loan of $25 million to the Guinean government to finance the start of a new Guinean state mining company. Behind Walter Henning and the $25 million loan agreement were Sexwale, Mark Wilcox, the chief executive of Mbelapanda Group, and several other businessmen of South African, Polish, and British extraction. One of them was Ian Hanham, a famous London banker who tried to arrange Russell's float on the London Stock Exchange in 2007 but failed. The loan deal was tipped for a potential investigation by the World Bank, which was to look into whether the loan was actually intended to finance a new state mining company as outlined in the contract, or to benefit political or individual interests in return for mining concessions. Mamount Thiam, the former Guinean mining minister and political opponent of President Alpha Conde, claimed that Sexwale was angry with the president because he was not delivering on his promises, and that Sexwale was funding the president's election campaign through the loan deal. In July 2012, a Russian publication reported that Walter Henning, through Paladino Capital II, made a series of payments totaling $25 million to the Guinean president's son, Mohamed Conde. The payments were made by Walter Henning from an account held in Turks and Caicos into an offshore account held by Mohamed Conde in Monaco. The money was originally lent by Henning's offshore company, Paladino Capital II, in order to start the mining company, but various news articles cited anonymous sources who have claimed that the $25 million was never reflected in the country's accounts. When faced with these accusations, Sexwale declined to comment personally and instead released statements through his spokesperson, Olani Kundu, that he would not confirm or deny any of the claims from faceless sources.